Hey everyone, it's Justin and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am sharing one last summer card on my channel for the year before it's ready to go over into fall weather. I'm going to be creating this card using some new and slightly older products from scrapbook.com. The primary die set I'll be using for this card is the Beach Vacation shape dies. It comes with a bunch of fun shapes to make a fun beach scene, and I will also be incorporating the Hello Summer stamp set and the newly released coordinating dies to the stamp set as well. So how about we dive into a little bit of stenciling with the large checkered stencil, and we're going to get this background for this card all ready to go. We're going to start with a panel of blending cardstock that's slightly smaller than A2 sized. I'm going to use my large checkered stencil and I'm going to place my panel on top of it. I'm then going to go reach for some 1-inch mint tape to tack my stencil onto my card panel, and this is just going to help keep everything nice and in place. Two pieces of tape should do the trick, and I'm going to pull out some salvaged patina and peacock feathers distress oxide ink for some ink blending. To put my color down, I decided to just go with a sort of splotchy pattern of sorts. So I start by putting down the salvage patina in some random areas, and then any of the remaining white portion that's exposed, I go in with the Peacock Feathers Distress Oxide ink to just blend it all into each other. Once I lay that peacock feather layer down, I do use my salvage patina blender to go ahead and just buff everything into each other to get that nice sort of ombre effect that I'm going for. What I love about the large checkered stencil is that it's repositionable. So I remove it from my card front and then I just sort of shift it a little bit and use the checkered portion of the stencil to cover up the already ink blended portion. And now what's exposed are some white areas of the cardstock, and I'm going to go with a different blue blend. I'm going to use Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide ink, following that same sort of splotchy pattern that I used previously. And next I'm going to pull in some Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide ink. I know you might be thinking these colors are rather close to each other, so it's weird that I might have changed them up, but you're going to get a nice sort of variance between the two. You're going to go between that blue-green to just more of like a true blue sort of color, and I love the way that they look next to each other. Once I finish blending out everything with my Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide blender, I remove my stencil and you see that nice effect. I smush some Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide ink onto my glass mat, I wet it with some water, and then I pick it up with a clean watercolor brush to splatter onto my card front. I love splattering with Distress Oxide inks because I think that they dry very nicely and they retain the circular shape of the drops on your panel. I pull in some opaque white paper splatter by Picket Fence Studios, which is one of my absolute favorite products, and I use it to splatter some white specks onto my panel as well. I just love the way that those stark white splatters look onto my project, and I couldn't resist by putting a little bit of this opaque white onto it. There you see how it's going to look, and of course I'm going to set the panel aside to dry. Grabbing my Beach Vacation shape dies and some mixed media paper pad, this is the A2 size of course in white, I'm going to begin selecting what dies I want to go ahead and die cut. So of course, to build my scene, I'm going to use some elements to have a umbrella for the beach chair, the beach ball, and I'm going to begin that process of getting everything all die cut from the white. The next colors I'm pulling out is the sandy color from the Daybreak A2 smooth cardstock pad, and this is going to help me build a really nice sandy bottom for the bottom of our scene card. There's also a sort of moderate brown color that I'll be using for the trunks of the palm trees, and in addition, the framing of the beach chair that we're going to be putting together as well. So of course, tacking everything down with some mint tape. There you can see I pull in that frame for the beach chair, and it's just gonna, oh, I love this color. It's just super nice. It's just a really good mid-tone brown, so it's gonna pull in those wood tones nicely. I grabbed the Sprinkles Smooth cardstock because I want to have a color scheme of sorts on my card as well. We're focusing a lot on those blues, and of course we got to pull in some greens with the palm trees. So this is all about those warm tones. Our umbrella, we're pulling in the different sections of the umbrella. We're going to use this hot pink paper, and it's going to give a really nice sort of pop. We're also going to put in a portion of the beach ball as well and tack that down with some mint tape. Next, we're going to grab the orange paper from the Sprinkle Smooth cardstock. We're going to use the stripes on the beach chair. We'll cut those out. There's a section of the beach ball die that we're going to get situated as well. And then I'm going to use mint tape once again to tack those down. The final color that I'll be using that's in the warm group is this yellow. It's nice and bright. I'm going to die cut the sun out of this color, a section of the beach ball, along with the main fabric portion of that beach chair. So once I get everything for those colors into place, with some mint tape, I will put my papers off to the side. Finally, in the Sprinkle Smooth cardstock, there is this sort of just moderate green color that I use to die cut out the tops of my palm trees. So I'll go ahead and get those ready to go. I'm also pulling in the magnetic mat by scrapbook.com. Now this is different than the magic mat because it does have a magnetic layer that's going to help hold those die cuts in place. I know I went ahead and I tacked them down with tape, but you really don't necessarily need to do that with these new magnetic mats by scrapbook.com. It fits perfectly inside of my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. Of course, this black model that you're seeing is exclusive to scrapbook.com. And I go ahead, I get everything die cut out, and I have to make a couple passes through just to make sure I get all of my shapes die cut for my project. I start putting some of my die cuts together, first with the fabric portion of the beach chair. I use the negative of the stripes and the body of the beach chair to help get these stripes into the appropriate spot. So I tack down that panel to the back of the negative from the die, and I put each of those stripes into place using a little bit of liquid adhesive. A little adhesive goes a long way, and a craft pick tool is going to be your absolute best friend in getting all of those layers adhered nicely to your die cut. So once I have the fabric of my chair all ready to go, I figured I may as well begin the process of putting the chair together. I start by using the largest portion on the frame onto the outline piece, and once that's adhered, I go ahead and put the fabric portion of the beach chair onto my card as well. There is going to be one more frame piece that goes on after, and the reason that you put this die cut on last is that it's going to give you a nice layering effect that the panel is going to be on top of the fabric portion. Afterwards, we're going to put the top of our umbrella together using some of the hot pink paper. I also use just 2 of the die cuts, not all 3 of them, but you can see that I use the die cuts to make sure everything is spaced apart accordingly. I put my little umbrella together using a little beach umbrella stand, and there is a little notch that goes on top of the umbrella as well, so don't forget that just to get that nice little detail onto your card. I begin putting my beach ball together, and I have 3 different colors of stripes on the beach balls. So I map out exactly where each of those die cuts fit, and I adhere them with my Misty Precision Glue Press. Once each of those stripes are in the correct place, I use my little circle die cut for the beach ball and put it right in the center of all of those colors. There is an outline piece for the beach ball die cut once put together, so I adhere it on my entire unit on top of the outline piece, and then begin the process of doing a little bit of distress ink blending. For my sun, I use Wild Honey Distress Ink just to give a little bit of a golden appearance to the center portion of the sun. So as you'll see, I'm using a mini ink blending tool in order to do so. I adhere the center part of the sun to the ray part of the sun as well. Next, it's time to distress some of the palm tree trunks, and I'm using Vintage Photo Distress Ink onto the trunks to get a nice shading on both the top and the bottom. Afterwards, I use Lucky Clover Distress Ink onto each of the palm tree leafy portions. I just distress the outside of the leaves. I don't do anything with the center, and it gives that really nice shading. Now with my ink blending done for the trees, I'm able to use my Misty Precision Glue Press to get everything put together for the trees so they're ready for later on my project. I want to talk to you a little bit about how I build sand when it comes to my scene cards. I like to use brushed corduroy distress oxide ink. I really think that it gives you that best sandy color. So here you see me distressing the bottom of my little sandy bank. And I'm going to grab some black soot distress oxide, smush it down, water it, and then splatter it onto my panel. And these are going to give that nice little speckled effect that sand does have. Now, we're not going to stop with just the distress oxide. We're also going to pull in that opaque white paper splatter again. So I've got that on a little bit of an acrylic block. I pick it up with a clean watercolor brush and I start to splatter it onto my panel. And those are going to give some white specks, which are going to complement so perfectly with those black specks. Let's work on our sentiment, and I am going to use from the Hello Summer set, Aloha and Love You to the Beach and Back. Using embossing watermark ink by Pink and Main, I stamped my sentiment onto the hot pink paper from the Sprinkle Smooth cardstock pack. I impress a couple times and then I use frosting embossing powder by Pink and Main on top of the ink before it dries. Once I get my nice coverage with my ink, I do use a heat embossing tool in order to set my embossing powder and get everything ready to go for my sentiments. I love that the Hello Summer shape die set also has coordinating dies for each of the sentiments. So I go ahead and put the Aloha die cut along with the Love You to the Beach and Back die cut on top, put them onto my magnetic mat, and process them through my die cutting machine. They come out perfectly and they'll be ready for later on my card. Now that we have all of our elements, let's put our scene together. I'm using my background now that it's fully dry, and I'm putting my little sand bank on the bottom. It does go a little beyond the card, so I take my scissors and I trim off the excess of the panel. I wanted to give this card a little bit of a color frame, so I do end up pulling out the yellow paper from the Sprinkle Smooth cardstock, and I adhere my background panel directly to it, and it gives a really nice yellow pop of color around my panel. I think framing is a great way to add just a fun little detail to your project, so I'm happy to get that yellow on there. When I create my cards, I like to play around with dimensions. So for my die cuts and my sentiments, I'm going to play around with a combination of using liquid glue to adhere elements directly to my card base. And you'll also see me pull in a couple foam adhesive strips as well, so that different elements of my card will pop, pulling attention to them. Most of my background pieces are just going to be adhered directly to my scene. You've seen me already adhere my large palm tree, the sun. Now I'm working on the small palm tree, and I'm working on getting that into the appropriate spot. I'm really loving how all of these colors are working together. I think that the yellow, orange, and the pink from the die cut elements add a really nice contrast to the blue-green background and the green of the palm trees. I put my little beach chair under the umbrella, and here you see me when I tell you about those little foam strips. I put them onto my sentiment bits, and we're going to adhere those to a portion of the card right over the trees. Sometimes I don't love covering up die cuts, but I think that still there is a lot of these palm trees that's exposed, so that it's okay that we're covering a little bit of it up because you still get a really nice view of them for our panel. Now, I'm a sucker for a really pretty embellishment, and these iridescent drops by Pink Fresh Studio are absolutely no exception. I decided just to put a couple on my card, and I love that the iridescence captures all of the various colors that we've got on our project. Whenever I'm in a little bit of a rut with deciding what to use for an embellishment, iridescent always seems to be my go-to because it just goes with everything. The final thing that I have to do for my project is adhering my A2 size card base behind my main card panel, and we are fully completed. Thank you all so very much for stopping by my channel today. I hope that this summery project filled with super fun products by scrapbook.com gives you that last little burst of summer energy, especially as we all know that fall is right around the corner. Thank you all once again for stopping by. I hope to see your creations very soon. And don't forget to stay crafty. Have a great day, and I'll see you around real soon. Bye-bye.